All right, so let's talk about forward stat leaders, minus the D. So we're just talking about forwards here. Remember that. Now, not only is this interesting, just in general, I had fun. This is kind of like fun homework for me. But it's also very pertinent to you fantasy hockey poolies out there who need to look at goals, assists, points, power play points leaders, penalty minute leaders. Hit leaders, shot leaders, and so on and so forth. I also threw in shooting percentage in there for poop and giggles, and of course, what else do I have there? And face-off win percentage, yeah. So, but before I get started, I just want to acknowledge that I've been on hiatus for quite some time now. A lot of that does have to do with work. I work in the film industry, I haven't mentioned that before. Which is very roller coaster, up and down kind of deal. But I had to leave to go across country back home to Toronto. We had a family emergency there. My nephew passed away at age 30. And I was trying to figure out how to bring this up over and over again in my head. And so I'm just going to say it. I guess I wanted to talk about the stigma related to mental health. He had a very tough time with it. I went through it as well. You can't really talk about it in the past, can you? Because if you have it, because it's always a part of you, no matter what. No matter if you're medicated or not, no matter if your life happens to go for the better, be it financially or a partnership of some kind or whatever it is. I've only really been medicated for a brief time. I managed to stay off of it, lucky enough. But I've had a lot of help from my family and friends, my wife especially, since I met her about 7 years ago. But some people aren't as lucky, Maybe there's not much family there who understand, or friends, and I know there's sometimes you can feel like if you happen to suffer from mental health issues, there's that feeling of shame or embarrassment that accompanies it sometimes. Like you don't want anyone to know, or eventually they do find out, and it's just better to be open about it. Secrets just don't help. They just make things worse. And you trying to, if you suffer from it, taking it on alone never helps. So, I mean, if you don't have a family or friends or, an immediate loved one who you can open up about it, medication can only help so much sometimes. There's people out there in the community who can help you. There's no reason at all for you to toil through this alone. And I know this exists a lot in the hockey world as well, with Robin Leonard opening up about it last year, especially. And this is just fresh for me right now because this literally just happened about a couple weeks ago. So, Fred, I'm going to miss you. I love you. We watched a lot of hockey together. I'll tell you that. Enjoyed a lot of beers. And I think of you all the time. Let's get started with the video, shall we? Starting with points. Number 1, we've got Draisaitl. 2, Pasternak. 3, McDavid. 4, Marchand. 5, we've got Ovechkin and Pettersson in a tie there. Number 6, we've got Eichel and McKinnon and Crosby. And number 7, we have a 3-way tie as well with Matthews, Stone, and Marner. Ho-hum, the the usual suspects. I guess Pettersson, question is, can he keep it up? Can he stay in the top 10 throughout the year? He's got the talent for it. Does he have the consistency? Let's talk about goals. Number 1, Draisaitl, who's tied with Pasternak. Number 2, we've got a three-way tie between Ovechkin, Neal, and Matthews. Number 3, we have Shen and Lindholm. And number 4, we've got Henrique. And number 5, we've got a 15-way tie for 7 goals there at the bottom. Now, Neal. Is Neal going to be able to keep this production up? I mean, with 11 goals so far. I mean, if he didn't score another goal for the rest of the season, it would probably still be a great trade for them, sending Lucic the other way. But chances are he'll probably hit 20. I think a lot of those are on the power play where he gets his points. And yeah, Lindholm has kind of cracked this group, but he's on that, that super line with the Calgary Flames with Gaudreau and Monahan. Henrique is interesting from the Ducks. He was probably the most likely guy here to fall off of the pace, I would imagine, this top 5 or top 10. I mean, he's been known to put up, 20, 25 goal seasons in the past, and I think he had an especially good year the year he left New Jersey. Let's talk about assists. Starting with number 1, McDavid. Number 2, we have Marchand and Barkov and Pettersson. Number 3, we've got Draisaitl and Marner. Number 4, we've got Pasternak and Crosby. And at number 5, we have a 6-way tie with 10 points. Let's talk about power play points. So this is goals and assists here. Number 1, we've got McDavid and Pasternak. Number 2, Eichel. Number 3, Neal and Olofsson, Marchand, Krug, Pettersson, and Hughes. Number 4, we've got Pacioretty, Stone, Draisaitl, Marner, McKinnon, Horvat, and Kane. Again, some of the surprises. So we have Neal in there at number 3. Like I said, he's getting a lot of points on the power play. Olofsson, who came over from the SHL for Buffalo there. He's putting up most of his points really on the power play. If you happen to pick him deep in your fantasy round, you're laughing right now. All the other guys, Hughes for Vancouver, he's doing really well. Is this just the beginning for him? We'll see if he can keep that pace up. Maybe Horvat. Being in that group, somewhat of a surprise if he's on that number 1 power play unit with Pettersson and Besser, etc. Hell, maybe he can stay in the top 20 by the end of the year. Evander Kane, I guess it shouldn't be a surprise to see him there, although he had a bit of a slow season last year. But yep, let's now get into something really interesting. One of my favorite categories in hits. Number 1, we've got Reeves. 2, Tanev. 3, Foligno. 4, Carrier. 5, Cassian. 6, Wilson and Lowry. Number 7, Lucic. And number 8, Sammy Blais. These are all Carrier at number 4. If he wasn't injured, scratched the odd time, you'll probably see him much higher. You'll probably see him and Reeves, in the top 3 easily there. Foligno, I wouldn't say it's a surprise, maybe that he's that high. Cassian, Lowry is usually on this list. Lucic, Sammy Blais, probably one of the youngest of this group here. Expect to see him on this top 10 probably out for the next while, maybe even the whole season. Penalty minutes. Number 1, we've got Gaudreau. 2, Lucic. 3, Marchand and Ritchie. 4, Kachuk, and Hunt. 5, Helm and Kunin. 6, Bluger and Ritchie. Got a couple of Richies on the board there. Marchand and Kachuk are basically, super pests. Boston's got 2 players on this list, as does Calgary. So they're not lacking any sandpaper there, at least for the moment. Let's move on to shots. Number 1, Ovechkin. Number 2, Pacioretty and Matthews. Number 3, Connor. 4, we've got Skinner and Mantha. 5, Gallagher and Marchessault. 6, Draisaitl. 7, Atkinson and McKinnon. All these guys are where they should be for the most part. Let's talk about face-off wins. Now, usually I would put this in percentage, maybe at some time starting from December on when there's more to work with. I have the actual wins, face-off wins here. So number 1, O'Reilly. Number 2, Crosby. 3, Horvat and Bergeron. 4, we've got Deneau, Backstrom, and Scheifele. Number 5, we've got Eller and Giroux. O'Reilly, Crosby, and Horvat, Bergeron, all those guys are known to be really good at the circle. Horvat just takes a ton of faceoffs for Vancouver. Danault is a great two-way player, so it's not surprising to see him on there, as is Backstrom and Scheifele. Eller, it's funny you see 2 Washington Capitals on that list, whereas usually they're like the worst face-off team in the league. I think last year they were one of the bottom 2, maybe even the worst from a face-off win percentage anyways. So we'll see if they continue to put up some of those numbers there. Giroux's right now is tied for 5th place, but I would probably expect him to see him in a top 3 in terms of percentage later on in the season. Last category here, we've got this shooting percentage. Now this is just fun. For a couple reasons, because you could see, okay, what guys are putting up normal numbers, or maybe they're a little bit hotter than normal, and who is just probably just being very somewhat lucky here, and who would probably fall off, and we'll get to that in a second. So number 1, Schenn. Number 2, Pasternak. 3, Oshie. 4, Hintz. 5, Henrique. 6, Neal. 7, Bonino, 8, Draisaitl. 9, Huberdeau, and 10, Lindblom. Now, it stands out really a lot for me here. Hintz is getting better every year. So although he may fall off, his percentage, that's pretty high. I mean, all of these are really high, really. Expect all those numbers to come down. Hintz, we'll see. I'll be keeping a close eye on him because he's young and he's progressing. Henrique, he's definitely going to fall off that pace, as would James Neal there at number 6. Bonino is another one who I expect to quiet down later on in the season. Lindblom, he's one of those guys you'll be looking at closely in Philly to see if he can keep up that pace as it is. And of course, Schenn is just on fire right now for the Blues, as is Pasternak. Now, as you can see for this list, the only guys that made this were who had a minimum of 24 shots. So there's a couple of key guys that were left off, but I just had to draw the line there somewhere. I almost forgot. Before I go, I just wanted to wish another one of my nephews, Sean, very happy birthday on November 1st, the day of our recording here. It's Friday. Go burn down the city. He lives out in Toronto, and by burn it down, I mean go out, have some fun, have some drinks, and enjoy yourself. Obviously. All right, so there you have it. Now, the reason I'm wearing this Boston tee, by the way, is because they have the most magnets up on the board in each of those categories. I want to say it's about 13 times they're up there. And the second, right after them, was the Edmonton Oilers at 11. There you go. Thank you so much for watching. Hit like if you like this video. Smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. And hey, if you happen to have any Hockey Geek friends, please don't feel shy about sharing. Thanks again, and hope to see you soon.